Hey, y'all. Hey, it's JJ Conway. First of all, I want to thank you all for being patient as I'm doing all this summer of travel, and I know that my microphone isn't the best. I've been traveling, I'm not in my home studio. Thank you for your grace and your patience and your kindness. Now, for today, for Wealth Building Wednesday, I want to talk a little bit about some of my most favorite clients and some of my worst mistakes. I'm going to open up to you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yes, the ugly.
Hey, y'all. Hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Mindset Monday, where we take the best teachings on mindset, motivation, and leadership and apply them to your life. This helps you get past the past and grow forward into abundance. Let's get into it.
So I'm really feeling philosophical today, getting ready to transfer sales operations to my son, who wants to start driving and wants to make the most money possible in the shortest amount of time. I hope he does well, because if you're good at sales, then your income is really unlimited potential. So what do you need for sales? Well, people need to know that you're sharp. They need to see you as a likable expert. They need to know, like, and trust you. And you have to be able to show them that how what you have meets their need. So in my opinion, you also have to be willing to show them that when you have doesn't meet the need, and if possible, you can tell them where to get that need met. That helps build trust. Although when you're talking about financial coaching, there's very few people that don't need financial coaching. Even financial coaches need coaching. They may not need financial coaching, but they might need business coaches, relationship coaches, etc. A colleague of mine likes to say, a coach without a coach is a cockroach. I've certainly found the value in having coaches who can challenge me in my limiting beliefs, as well as having mentors who can shorten my learning curve and advocates who can open doors for me. I've grown so much from my coaches, mentors, and advocates, and not only from them, but also from my clients. I have the most amazing clients in the world. They bravely face their money situations, no matter how dire, and they steadfastly hold on until I get that email or phone call that they've run that race. They've won the race. They've finished their race. They've accomplished the goal. Each person that I work with, they add something to me, and for that, I'm grateful. In fact, I'm so grateful that my son's first task will be calling up about 2,000-ish former clients and offering them a free financial audit. What? Why on earth would I do that? Well, let me tell you why. Because I'm realizing as I teach him more about my business that when I got started, I just wasn't any good. I wasn't bad. I had been helping people in a nonprofit capacity for about 14 years when I finally decided to make a business of it. So I wasn't bad, especially if you were dirt poor. Like, I knew how to be dirt poor, right? I knew how to pinch a penny so hard it gave Lincoln a headache. Who remembers my how to get 6 meals out of 2 pounds of ground beef videos, right? Like, does anybody remember those? I was so frugal, y'all, that I was actually uncomfortable the first time my ex and I were on track for $250,000. I was uncomfortable with wealth. And I didn't realize what that discomfort was until the rug got pulled out from under me and I found myself a divorced military mom with over $845,000 of debt, trying to rebuild my life. Everything else in my life was a hot mess. But the one thing that I was comfortable in that broke money situation. Embarrassed, but comfortable. Killed me to call up and say I couldn't pay my bills, but part of me was relieved because I knew how to be broke. Some of you, your business isn't growing because you're comfortable with lack, so you haven't made wealth welcome in your life. Some of you, you're having trouble finding a spouse because you're comfortable with doing it all on your own rather than trusting another person to actually be there for you. So then you make welcome in your life only people who won't actually be there for you. It's a vicious cycle. Some of us, some of you, some of me are working hard to get healthy and be at a good weight, and some of us are doing all we can do, but haven't made health welcome because we don't know how to be the person who gets the attention healthy people get. You don't know how to live a life of success without your health being the excuse you rely on for not getting it done. And I hadn't made wealth welcome. I said I wanted to be wealthy. I worked hard to be wealthy. One of the bishops prophesied that I would always have money. I kind of doubted that when I was $800,000 in debt, y'all, but I was praying about it, and the Spirit reminded me that from a social media perspective, I got on social media right before the divorce because we used it for that 6-month military trip. From a social media perspective, I looked like I lacked for nothing all this time. I had so many free tickets, so many free opportunities, so many free blessings just dropped into my lap, and you would never have known if you didn't know me personally just how dire my financial situation was. So maybe I didn't have money in the bank, but I certainly had an abundant life. Yet I hadn't made wealth welcome. I knew the mechanics of how to manage wealth, but I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to stop giving out of obligation, feeling like others deserved my money because I had so much more than I needed, because I made it out and they didn't. I didn't stop to think about how hard I was studying while they partied their weekends away. I didn't stop to think about how dedicated I was to working with excellence while they cut corners, while they testified about getting paid to do nothing at work, and basically defrauded their employers any time they thought about they could get away with it. I didn't do that. I didn't know also how to give responsibly. I didn't know how to be comfortable wearing nice things knowing that people I cared about couldn't afford them. I didn't know how to be okay with spending $1,000 on an outfit or some shoes or a purse. That was exorbitant. Well, let me tell you, when that $1,000 on my shoulder helped me land a $10,000 speaking engagement, oh, you bet believe I am not going back. In fact, it's such a night and day difference that the other day the Dallas Christian Louboutin store sent a new arrival email. Y'all, there was a black textured leather purse with spikes, red bottoms, and a red handle. It was a bad pocketbook, y'all. And then I saw that it was $1,200. And 15 years ago, I would have been like the disciple who was stealing from Jesus. That money could go to feed the poor. But this day, I was like, Jesus said, the poor you'll have with you always. I'm going to get me that purse and enjoy it. Now, if you're new to me and building wealth together, you don't know this yet, but I am one of the most non-brand conscious people there is. I buy stuff because it works, it looks good, and it makes me happy. Bonus if I get all three in one product, right? And when I find that trifecta in a product, I go back and get it in all the colors, right? So I'll shop in Walmart because I live in Stephenville and that's basically all we have. Actually, not true. We just opened up a Ross, Old Navy, and yay, a TJ Maxx, y'all. I almost cried when I saw that it opened. Well, there's no Dillard's, no Macy's, no Saks, no Donna Vinci, no Ben Mark. I mean, nobody dresses like that around here. And even if they did, it's a 2-hour drive to the Metroplex, right? So I'll wear Walmart. But I love when I can get to the Metroplex and do some shopping. I discovered that clothes from higher brands wrinkle less in my luggage, wash better, and last longer usually. So if they look good, I'll pay for that quality. And if I like it, I don't care. I like so little off the shelf or off the rack, honestly, that I am really not worried about overspending because I'm a weird body shape and I have weird taste. I've worked hard for my money, and unless the Lord says no, which he does sometimes, I'm going for it. And so this change in my mentality over the years came not only through my mentors, coaches, and advocates, but also through my clients. A lot of times clients will come to me who break my heart, and then I pray about them. I do pray for y'all. Even if you're not Christian, I ask my God to bless you according to his word, which says that if you'll be diligent with what you have, you'll receive more. And also says that his son came that you might have life and that more abundantly. And sometimes when I pray in frustration, Lord, how do I help this person see what I clearly see without being so overbearing that I shut them down? A lot of times the Lord tells me, you are that man. That's a reference to David. You can look it up. I'm the same way, that I've grown out of a lot of fear, and I no longer fear lack. I walk confidently because I know that if I have to suffer another season of lack, which I really hope the Lord doesn't see fit to make me go through that, but if I do, I know he's got my back. I've grown out of miserliness. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm still giving Lincoln headaches, but I'm now more generous in the areas that are important to me and my family. I operate from a place of abundance and prosperity rather than a scarcity mindset. I no longer feel obligated to give anybody anything. In fact, me and the Lord, we have an agreement. If you ask me for money, I know immediately he is not telling me to give you any, and I will sleep well all night after saying no. I no longer feel like I don't deserve to do better than this person or that person. Now, don't get it twisted. I'm still not worth much. I mean, I still kind of want to have that JJ's worth nothing party we could have had if there wasn't a pandemic. The day I finally crossed the line from being $845,000 in debt to having a zero net worth, right? But I don't think it's going to take me long to swing the pendulum the other way. And now I'm living the life I need to live and growing comfortable making the decisions I would need to make if I really had in my hands the multi-millions that I believe I one day will hold. And those changes come from observing my clients and making the changes in my own life that I wanted for them, that I didn't even realize were holding me back. So let me tell you about some of my favorite clients. Or some of my biggest mistakes. I'm going to tell you about my very first client that came through me as a Ramsey preferred coach. Ramsey Solutions, they called it something else back then, but it's basically the referral program from the Dave Ramsey Show. You can go to their website, you look for a financial coach, and they send you to one of us depending on their zip code. Because my husband was in Texas, I used his zip code and got my very first referral. Now, I had been doing financial education and coaching with Our Daily Bread in Virginia Cooperative Extension and similar places wherever I had been stationed for years. But this was my first venture into being in business as a financial planner. And so I was so excited for my first client and kind of freaking out about how much was I going to charge her, right? But when I heard her story, there was no way. I didn't have the heart to charge someone who could barely put food on the table and had to write 22 pro rata letters every month to her creditors explaining that she can't pay them. A pro rata letter, if you haven't heard of it, is what I have my clients write when they can't pay their bills. Pro rata means fair share. Each creditor, they're not getting what they want, but they're getting their fair share. You basically add up all your bills and list each one by percentage. So maybe you owe JCPenney's $1,000, Lowe's $1,500, and Best Buy $2,500. That's a total of $5,000. And let's just say those minimum payments each month are $250 together. But by the time you cover your four walls, that's your house, your basic food, your transportation, and your basic clothing, all you've got left out of your paycheck is $50. Well, if your minimum's $250 and you only got $50 left, you're not going to have enough to pay everybody. If that's all you've got left after taking care of the basic necessities, well, then that's all you can send. And so my very first step for people is to stop digging the hole deeper. So JCPenney is not getting their $100 minimum. Their fair share of your $50 is only $10. So then what you do is you send them $10 and you send that with a letter that explains why they're only getting $10. I lost my job. I got in a car accident. I was really foolish with money, whatever the reason was, and I can't pay you. Here's an overview of my budget. Here's what I owe. I promise I'll pay in full one day, but as you can see, all I got left over is $50 and your fair share of that is $10. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, you send that letter every month, and even if their pro rata share is only $2, they are highly unlikely to sue you. In 20 years of telling people how to do pro rata letters, I've only had one guy get sued, and that's because he didn't put all the parts in. See, he didn't say he would pay back in full one day, and he didn't include a top-level budget. So for all his creditors knew, he really could have had the money and just spent it on a big screen TV or wooing his new girlfriend. But this lady, my first referred client after opening a quote-unquote business, she had 22, yes, you heard me right, 22 pro rata letters she was sending out every month, and it worked. And she did the work. She made the kids find their own way to fund things like cheer camp and school dances, and they did. And this family did such a turnaround in just a year that they started facilitating financial classes at their church. My first actually paid client was equally memorable. She was retired and worth millions, but afraid to buy a new home in cash. It was everything she ever wanted. She didn't want a payment, but felt guilty about spending her money. I did the calculations to show her she would be fine financially if she spent $400,000 to $500,000 on that house. I really hope she bought the property because it would be worth millions today. What I learned from this client was to stop being so afraid to enjoy what the Lord gave me. Sometimes we equate poverty with piousness. We equate happiness with wantonness or lesser pride. Or we feel guilty, like I mentioned earlier. Sometimes we feel guilty for having done better than the people we grew up with or the people we care about. Maybe we feel guilty for having had someone leave us a nest egg, or any number of reasons that result in us not feeling free to enjoy the fruits of our labor. Have you ever given your kid a gift and they never used it? Or maybe you bought something your spouse would like, but they never wear it? Or you take them to an expensive restaurant for their birthday, but they just order water and a small side salad because they're so price conscious? Like you're trying to bless them and they're not even letting you. I can just imagine the Lord being like us as parents. I gave you everything you need and even what you want, but you're not taking advantage of my gift. So I learned that from this first paid client. My second paid client was also very memorable, but not because of his story. I actually don't remember it. Let me tell you what I do remember, though. It was one of my most massive fails as a financial planner. I was late and we rescheduled, and then we connected and had a bad schedule. Let me start that over. My second paid client was also very memorable, but not because of his story. I actually don't remember it. Let me tell you what I do remember, though. It was one of my most massive fails as a financial planner. I was late and we rescheduled. Then we connected and had a bad signal, so we rescheduled. Finally, I was actually going to meet with this man and his wife, and what happens? My husband buys tickets for the Cubs, who were playing in Baltimore that week. Now, for those of you who don't know my baseball history, my husband is a huge Cubs fan. He proposed to me at Wrigley Field. We got married in 2014. We had Cubby Conway in 2015. They won the next World Series. Like, I seriously did my part for the franchise, okay? So at the time, I was stationed in Virginia. Chris lived in Texas, and he had come to visit. And he bought tickets, only he bought them on a Friday. And newly married minister wanting to lay down the law. You know how that is when you first get married, right? Like you lay down the law while dating, but once you married, it's like you have to redraw the boundaries all over again, right? Because now you're stuck with each other. And so actually, you know what? Now that I say that, I better make sure I'm on home tonight because I know it bothers him. I'm usually on time or a little bit late. Okay, anyway, it killed me to be early while I was dating, so he at least knew what he was getting. My goodness, I do need to do better, but I don't like to be too early because I have so much other stuff I could be doing. So anyway, my new husband buys tickets on a Friday, and I'm like, I've been having church on Friday night since you met me. So then he has to rebuy them, and he rebuys them for the day game when I have this appointment with this guy who was already very frustrated with me when we rebooked for the third time, and I was not going to reschedule him for a fourth time because honestly, I didn't want him to ask for his money back, and I really forgot what the situation was, but I just knew that I had the answer. So what do? I go to the game like a good wifey, and I'm thinking, I'll just go to the car and take this call. Okay. Half of y'all just laughed at me because, well, you don't just walk out of a stadium and go to your car. And there was no quiet place at Oriole Stadium to take a call. But this was only like my second ever real baseball experience, right? So I didn't understand that when I made these plans. So what do? I seriously lock myself in the family bathroom. I crouch down as far away from the door as I can and do the coaching session. Yes, in the bathroom. And my thought process was like, well, this is a one-holer. Surely there's other bathrooms with big bases stalls, and when they see this one's occupied, they'll just keep rolling by. No, they didn't. Oh my goodness, y'all. People got mad. People were banging on the door every couple of minutes, and one guy kept coming back, and I realized I better wrap this call up around the time that he's banging on the door saying, come out or I'm going to get security. And to this day, I have never heard from that couple again. Not an email, nothing. I don't know what they heard or didn't hear, but I tell you what, I have never done that again. Now, I've had some great clients, including the one who I really didn't think was into what I was teaching. I lost touch with her, heard back 5 years later that she was completely financially independent, living off of her and her husband's disability. They'd paid off the truck, the house, and now they were looking to start a home-based business to supplement their disability without disqualifying them and allow her to interact with different people, which would be a boost to her mental health. There are so many who have helped launch businesses and get out of debt and grow closer to their spouse. I got 2 marriages saved, y'all. 2 widows who never thought they could buy a house and now are able to. And I've got several single moms who are making it despite the odds. I've also had some flops, like the one who, after I refunded everybody when I couldn't serve them with excellence following that career ending car accident, she was actually resent to me by one of my referral sources who must not have realized that the lazy financial coach who used her accident as an excuse not to meet with her was actually me. That actually really hurt my heart. And I offer a 200% guarantee. I'll refund you and then I'll pay for your first session with another financial planner up to the amount you paid me. And I had already been working with this client for several months. Surely she would not see me as lazy and lying. And I really stressed over that. I shouldn't have, because why couldn't she say that I refunded her and offered to pay for the new planner once she found one she liked? I had to learn from that not to internalize the negative things that people say about you. So when people offer me criticism, I'll pray on it just to make sure it's not really the Lord. And when people appear to lie on me, I hold my emotions in check until I can pray about whether they are being petty or is that really how they see it. I also learned through my clients that sometimes I can be right, but so wrong. There was the lady who wanted to know how to make 7 figures in real estate, which I believe anyone can do, even if they don't buy the properties. But she didn't want to sell homes, didn't want to make phone calls, didn't want to find flips, didn't want to wholesale, didn't want to do the research for tax sales and other strategies, didn't want to do any of the work on the property herself, but didn't want to go to the RIA meetings to connect with others that she could pay to do it. And I was like, well, what are you willing to do? I mean, you can't just expect to press an easy button and the money come to you. You got to get off your butt and do something. Can't help you if you refuse to do any of the things I teach. Ouch. Let's just say she stopped her payments and I have never received a referral from her. Not my finest moment. Was I wrong? Well, of course not. But I had to learn there's a way you talk to people. I can look back and I really appreciate the clients who hung in there, even though I may have come across as harsh and intimidating. I also appreciate the couple that appeared in my office in the mall one day. The session was already going downhill, y'all, because I offended them by suggesting they register as a veteran for VA benefits. And then I made it worse because they said, how dare I try to get them to scam the government? And I tried to explain that I'm an honest person. I'm above board. But you really should go to the VA because you're clearly not in the best of health. And even though you worked a desk job, you may have been exposed to fumes or something where they'll cover with health care or possibly a check every month. Let them decide if you deserve benefits. So now they're really mad at me and I decide to end things. But of course, like any salesperson, right? Not without trying to sell them into a coaching program just in case they change their mind about my recommendations. I try to show them how to buy their next session. And I go through this maze of clicks and can't even get to my own order page, y'all. We had just updated the website to accept payment because for a couple years, my military job was one where I couldn't take paid clients. Well, somehow in the update, we overcomplicated the process of signing up. Moral of the story? Well, it could be don't tell your clients they're overweight. The real lesson is, in addition to that, don't make it difficult for people to give you their money. Make it easy for them to buy from you. Confused buyers, don't buy. And do an audit of your website at least once a month or anytime sales drop to make sure that one change didn't ruin other streams of income and information. Then there was the guy who made over $100,000 a month. Yes, a month, but only had several hundred to his name. He told me I couldn't possibly help him since I charged so little for financial coaching. I convinced him to work with me, but refunded his money pretty quick because he was not coachable and I don't like wasting my time. To me, you've really grown as a coach when you realize you don't have to take every client. So to the clients I do have and have had, I hope you know how grateful I am to have been a part of your financial journey. I didn't have time to tell all the success stories today, but just know I love yous. I pray for yous. I think of yous often. And if you're a former paid client or if you are a free client who worked with me longer than 2 months, then I have something very special for you. It's a free 1-hour financial audit. Now, if you haven't received a phone call or email about signing up for one, please go to jjclink.com/audit to receive your free session. I'm JJ Conway. Thanks for listening. Y'all take care and be blessed.
Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.